All right, with the NFL Combine in the books, it's time to do another mock draft, the 4.0 version. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back. Next episode of the Fantasy Headliners. And I cut it out probably before you saw it. Kyle did some weird hand motion for 4.0. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Nope, there it is again. I just saw it. Twice in one day is too much. Kyle, how we doing today?
Doing well. Combine was a blast. Got a chance to go down there and see some of these guys firsthand and put some more notes on paper. And now we have a mock draft of what we actually think might be happening. So these are actual predictions this time, not scenarios like we've been doing. This is us predicting.
Yeah, exactly. So as you could probably tell here lately, some of the news coming out with the potential first round picks and stuff, we're starting to get a better idea of the direction that the teams are going, kind of like Kyle said. So yes, before they were all scenario based, but now we're actually hitting the predictions, and we're not going to take a whole lot of time. We're going to try to fly through this list as quick as possible. I'll have the graphics up on the screen for you. Here we go. Number 1 overall, Kyle, let's get into it. It sounds like reports are saying that Cliff Kingsbury is saying it's a done deal. Kyler Murray, number 1 to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and maybe he's just trying to get people to ante up and come up and get that number 1 pick. But I think either they trade out of that spot or they take Kyler Murray. I don't think if they trade out, or I don't think if they stick there, they take anyone else other than Kyler Murray, and they worry about all the Josh Rosen stuff later. Not that I 100% agree with it, but it definitely sounds like that's the way we are heading right now.
Yeah, and there's going to be a video coming out here later in the week. I'm going to be putting down on paper why I think Kyler Murray needs to be going number 1. It makes a lot of sense to me. The air raid offense that Cliff Kingsbury runs, the mobile quarterback behind a not-so-great offensive line, that is the biggest problem for Josh Rosen. He wasn't mobile enough. He couldn't move enough, and that offensive line couldn't give him any protection. I really like Kyler Murray, number 1. Number 2 now, the past consensus number 1 pick, Nick Bosa, drops to the San Francisco 49ers at the number 2 spot, and they are ecstatic about it.
Yeah, still in my mind, the best player in this draft, honestly. I like Kyler Murray, I do. But if you were looking for the safest player, upside, everything, the whole package, it would be Bosa.
Yep. Number 3, the New York Football Jets, Jets, Jets. They go with Quinnen Williams, defensive lineman out of Alabama, and the big boy can move, Kyle. We kind of saw it there at the Combine, putting up some good numbers for a big – he was moving pretty quick down the 40 line there.
He was. I mean, just an all-around great combine, really cemented the fact that he is a top 5 player at least in this draft. And the Jets don't really need to have him, but I think they're going to fill a lot of holes in free agency, so that allows them to really go best available in this draft, not necessarily looking at needs. And at this point, if this is how it plays out, Williams is the best available at that spot.
Number 4, we have the Oakland Raiders. They need some type of sort of a pass rush there. And here they get Josh Allen, defensive end out of Kentucky. Maybe somewhat the most upside, but somebody who may be the rawest, somebody that needs that extra coaching here, but he could turn into a huge talent for the Raiders.
Yeah, and they need an edge rusher. They want an edge rusher. To get Josh Allen at 4 is really a big win for them. So that would be a terrific value if that's end up happening.
Yep, exactly. Tampa Bay Bucks, number 5 overall. We have possibly, I guess you could make an argument between Ed Oliver here and Quinnen Williams, both of them absolute studs on the interior defensive line. But right here we have Ed Oliver, 5th overall out of Houston, going to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that there may have been a couple of teams that requested that Ed Oliver try out for linebacker at the Combine, because teams can request that players go to different positions, and someone had asked him to also try out at linebacker, and he's a pretty big guy. So for them to ask him about linebacker, that must say a lot about his athleticism.
Yeah, absolutely. The New York Football Giants now, and here's where they get their quarterback. People have been talking about it for a while. They're sick of Eli Manning, even though it sounds like Eli is going to be there for another year. They need a quarterback of the future. Dwayne Haskins had a pretty decent combine. I think it was reaffirmed that he's not the mobile type of quarterback, getting a plus 540 there, but he is somebody who delivers the ball with accuracy, and he could be the future there for the New York Giants.
I think it is absolutely possible that we see a lot of movement at the top of this draft for people trying to get in front of the Giants. I don't think the Giants are going to rush to go take a quarterback, but if Haskins or Murray, possibly, I don't think so. But if one of those guys were to somehow fall to them at 7, I think that they end up taking them. Although I don't 100% agree with it. I think they should work on other things. If they've already committed to Eli Manning, wait till next year.
Yep. Number 7 overall, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they get the crazy talented Montez Sweat edge rusher out of Mississippi State. Another one of these defensive edge rushers that can move. I mean, this is a guy that, at that size should not be moving that fast.
Yeah, another great combine performance for this guy. A lot of the edge rushers had really good combine performances, but he was one that really stood out. If the Jaguars do end up signing Nick Foles, like it looks like they're going to do, I don't think they need to be taking a quarterback like a lot of mock drafts having them do, because if you're going to invest in Foles, which I assume will be multiple years, really no reason to take a quarterback this year. Work on other things.
Yep, there'd be too much money tied up in one position if they were to do that. All right, number 8, the Detroit Lions, your Detroit Lions. Right now we have them taking Devin White, linebacker out of LSU, and I think it's pretty much solidified now. He is the best linebacker in this draft.
Yeah, he is. Devin Bush, I think, is a close second, but it sounds like the Lions were really impressed with White. They met with him at the Combine. He has publicly said he would like to play there alongside Jared Davis. So this looks like this is a match that's starting to really work out well.
Number 9, the Buffalo Bills. They need some playmakers on offense, and a name that was probably talked about more than any other name during the Combine weekend, DK Metcalf, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. I love this kid. A lot of people are going to throw a lot of shade out there because of his 3-cone time and his agility. Give me a break. The dude is like a human, like a superhero. I mean, he's literally, they were referring to him there while we were at the Combine in our earpieces as like the human bat suit, because that's kind of what he looks like, is he is just somebody who is a physical talent. We have him going to Buffalo, which isn't the best landing spot for a wide receiver, but it does give Josh Allen that other added weapon to hopefully build with here over the next few years.
Yeah, I think the Bills would be better suited taking a safer player. I wouldn't necessarily say Metcalf is a safe player. He does have some of the most upside in this draft, but they're going to be too infatuated with the fact that they could be getting themselves a stud wide receiver, one of the best players in this draft, and they're going to pull the trigger considering they probably need help at wide receiver anyway. I say probably, and when I say probably, I mean they do. So they'll pull the trigger here. I definitely think Metcalf to the Bills is something that will happen.
And they mentioned it there. He's kind of like the go route guy. And even if it is, pair that up with Josh Allen, who can throw the ball a country mile, there could be some big plays in the works there for Buffalo. Number 10, the Denver Broncos. They need some help on the offensive line, and here we have them taking arguably the best offensive tackle in the draft, Jonah Williams out of Alabama.
I can't mock a quarterback to the Denver Broncos at this point, just because if a guy like Jonah Williams falls to them and they say, okay, we can get a future cornerstone offensive tackle, someone to help keep Joe Flacco healthy this year, I think they pass on Drew Lock and they go with the offensive tackle at that point, the safer bet. I would find it extremely odd that John Elway has made horrible decisions at quarterback the last several years outside of Peyton Manning. And then not only does he trade for Flacco in a huge contract, but then he drafts a quarterback top 10. So if he was going to do that, I wouldn't assume that he would have traded for Flacco to begin with.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. And we've kind of had them pegged at the linebacker position here for a few mocks, but here we have them taking Devin Bush, linebacker out of Michigan. And this kid could provide a whole lot of defensive potential there for the Bengals.
Yeah, I had him to the Bengals that are in our first mock draft, and I had a lot of comments about there's no way he's going to go that high. But after his combine performance, I mean, he could. He absolutely could, especially if Devin White were to go before that to the Lions. Linebacker is a key position the Bengals need. Devin Bush, would absolutely go at this spot if White's already off the board.
Number 12, the Green Bay Packers, their first of 2 first-round picks. We have them taking Brian Burns, edge rusher out of Florida State, somebody who we've had in all of our mock drafts, and a lot of people have always commented, hey, I don't see that guy going that high. I think a lot of eyes were opened. I know the Combine is not something where you can totally, tell if this guy's going to be an all-pro or not, but I think a lot of people recognize that this kid has a lot of talent and maybe open up some more eyes to go watch some more film, because the guy is an absolute beast off the edge despite being slightly undersized.
I do love Brian Burns. I've been saying it for a while now. I don't think his size is nearly an issue as what we thought, because he checked in the 260s, which you'd like to see him a little bit heavier, but that's not nearly as bad as what a lot of people had anticipated. But with that being said, I I do think there's an opportunity for possibly a tight end to go here as well. A Hawkinson or a Fant, maybe that high. But I do like this fit better personally. I think the Packers working on defense best suits them, even if they get caught up in these tight ends could be the future. So
yeah, there's no such thing as a future tight end in Green Bay. All right, Miami Dolphins next up, 13th overall. It sounds like it's no more Ryan Tannehill. So here we have Drew Lock, quarterback out of Mizzou, and he may be, I don't want to call him the most pro-ready, but he looked the most comfortable at the combine. The throwing drills, he was on target, he was on time, he didn't seem to be flustered, didn't seem to be nervous. He is somebody who would come into Miami and be able to start on day one, I believe.
Yeah, I do like him a lot more now that I've actually seen him in person and got to see some other things outside of the tape that's been watched. I do think he could end up being a decent pro quarterback. But this is one of those scenarios, too, that I talked about a few minutes ago, potentially teams jumping up. So the Dolphins, I think, would be one that would try to move up. But in this scenario where we don't have any trades built in, I think Locke would be an option here if this is how it plays out.
Yep, agreed. All right, number 14, the Atlanta Falcons. We have them getting Rashawn Gary, edge rusher out of Michigan. A lot of mocks have him a little bit higher. I think he's somebody else who could literally go at any point in this first round. It's kind of hard to pinpoint kind of where he slots in, but we have him right here, 14th overall, the Falcons.
Yeah, he's a top 10 player in a lot of mock drafts. You can tell I'm a Michigan fan and I'm not being biased with it. There are some things on tape that could worry you. I think some teams will think about that come draft day. He could potentially slide a little bit, but we've mocked him to Atlanta before because of their need for a defensive tackle and an edge rusher. This is a guy who could move inside or outside.
Yeah, I've seen him going as high as number 4 overall to the Raiders in some mocks. Number 15, the Washington Redskins. They need a whole lot of help. They need help all over the field. And a lot of people are saying, hey, man, we need some playmakers. Well, you need to have somebody to get them the ball, and it doesn't really do you much good to draft a quarterback here when you have such a bad offensive line. We have them taking Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle out of Florida, and this guy would be the first piece in what probably needs to be a few pieces in Washington to really solidify that offensive line to even give them a chance at a future quarterback.
It sounds like Josh Rosen is a serious consideration for going to Washington. They might not even have to give up a first-round pick to do it, but whatever ends up happening, they do need to secure the offensive line a lot better because regardless of who starts a quarterback for them this year, they're going to be running the ball a lot. They're going to need to open up gaps, and this is something that Jawan Taylor can definitely do. I think he's got more upside as a tackle compared to Jonah Williams, who's safer.
Yep. Number 16, the Carolina Panthers. They also need some help on the offensive line. I mean, they lost Andrew Norwell last year, which was a big loss. They really need to protect Cam Newton, and I'm doing air quotes right now if you can't see it because of the graphic. If Cam Newton plays this year, we really don't know. They need to protect Christian McCaffrey. They need to open up more holes for him. We have them taking Andre Dillard, offensive tackle out of Washington State, trying to help shore up that offensive line a little bit.
Yeah, they could probably use an edge rusher more. But again, the same thing. You got to secure the offensive line. You got to protect your quarterback. Christian McCaffrey needs as much room to run. I think this is a safe pick for him.
Yep. Number 17, the Cleveland Browns. Here we have them getting Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. And if you would have told the Browns, fans a few months ago that a player of this caliber would fall to them at number 17, I think they'd be ecstatic. Is it a sexy offensive style pick? Not really. But there's also been some cryptic tweets coming out here recently from some of the offensive players in Cleveland, like David Njoku and Jarvis Landry, talking about, hey, get your head right and come to Cleveland. Whether that means there's some works for some wide receiver help, whatever it may be, I think Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson, is a great choice for the Browns at 17.
Wide receiver help or a wide receiver that needs help?
Both, yes. Both.
But anyway, yeah, Christian Wilkins, I think he'd fit in fabulous on that offensive line. A guy that can shoot the gaps, stop the run a little bit as well. I think he'd be a perfect fit there in Cleveland.
Number 18, the Minnesota Vikings. I know this has been a consensus position here for us the past few mocks. We both agree they really need to help that offensive line. They need to give Kirk Cousins more time. They need to open up more holes for Dalvin Cook, who looked explosive at the end of last season. We have them taking Cody Ford, offensive lineman out of Oklahoma.
I definitely think he is the best interior offensive lineman in this draft.
Yep. Number 19, the Tennessee Titans. Another one of these teams where they could go a couple different directions. Right now we have them taking Garrett Bradbury, offensive lineman out of NC State. They do need some more wide receiver help, and they do need an edge rusher also. But I think until they shore up that offensive line and kind of help out Marcus Mariota, the playmakers, the wide receivers really are going to kind of be pointless at this point.
Yeah, I would have put a guy like Cullen Farrell here probably a week or so ago, but because his combine was less than stellar, I think he's dropping a little bit right now. Garrett Bradbury, who had a great combine, is starting to rise. So this seems like a really safe pick here as well. And we keep talking about safe picks, and honestly, in the first round, why not? You don't want your first round pick flaming out.
Yeah. Number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The drama that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need some help in the secondary. They gave up, a bajillion and 12 yards through the air last year. And here we have them taking Byron Murphy, defensive back out of what you would like to call DBU, Washington.
Yeah, Byron Murphy is my number one cornerback in this draft. I've said it a couple of times. I have him over Greedy Williams. That was just cemented this past weekend at the combine. So I put him here. I think this is a good fit too.
Yeah, he really helps out that defensive side of the football. 21, the Seattle Seahawks. We know Earl Thomas is no longer going to be there, right? And I think some people actually learned who Nasir Adderley was over the past week or so. And that's where we have going at 21st overall, the safety out of the small school of Delaware.
Yeah, he didn't participate in the combine because he does have an injury that he's working through, but he did say that he'll be ready for his pro day. There'll be no issues with that. This is a guy, if you don't know him, read up on him because he really is one of the top defensive players and the top safety for me in this draft. Don't let Delaware fool you. This kid can play ball.
Yeah, because there's nothing tricky out of Delaware. Let's see here. 22nd overall, the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, we know they need some help on the outside. They need some help at wide receiver. Here we have them taking arguably the most pro-ready wide receiver in the draft, N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Looked great at the combine, making diving catches and drills, and the effort was really there, and you could tell that he is ready to go. I'm not overly excited about N'Keal Harry to the Baltimore Ravens, but that's more of like the fantasy perspective of me talking. I do think he really offers an offensive threat, a red zone threat to both Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens offense.
Yeah, for as well as DK Metcalf did at the combine, N'Keal Harry did just as good. It was just overshadowed. So he's still my wide receiver one, even though I do have Metcalf going much earlier in this draft.
Yeah, Metcalf is just like that awesome shiny toy on Christmas morning that you just can't wait to open.
Perfect.
N'Keal Harry is the toy that you really want. Let's put it that way. Let's see. The Houston Texans, 23rd overall. Another one of these teams which we've pretty much had pegged for offensive line here for 4 straight mock drafts because they need to protect Deshaun Watson. They have to. That's the future of the franchise. They got plenty of playmakers there right now, and their team is in the talks of all these rumors with Le'Veon Bell and other free agents out there. Here we have them taking Dalton Reisner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State, just trying to help them protect Deshaun Watson a little bit more.
Yeah, they have to have an offensive lineman, 100%. Doesn't really matter how this draft plays out. They need to get one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The best available offensive lineman needs to go to Houston in the first round. Yes. 24, the second of 3 first-round picks for the Oakland Raiders, as of right now. We have them taking who some have as the top-rated defensive back, Greedy Williams out of LSU. I think he's somebody who could really shore up the secondary for Oakland, though.
Yeah, I mean, Greedy Williams, he's going to be a good player, but some of the concerns came out at the combine this week, and he looked really sloppy with his feet in a few drills. He definitely looks like a cornerback that could get turned around early in his career. I'm not taking anything away from him. I do think he's going to be fine and will be a good cornerback. I just think there are some issues that he'll need to work out, and he might have to work out during his rookie season, so he falls a little bit for me.
Yep. 25, the Philadelphia Eagles. You mentioned it a little bit earlier about Clelin Ferrell kind of dropping in some of these mock drafts, and this is kind of where we have him at as of right now. 25th overall, Clelin Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson.
Yeah, I do like Ferrell. I think that he could be a very solid player, maybe never that superstar type of defensive end, but a solid contributor.
Yep. 26, the Indianapolis Colts. Kind of another one of these teams where we've kind of had our eye on a certain position, and then after the combine, the names may fall in different orders, obviously, but we have Hakeem Butler, wide receiver out of Iowa State. The upside with Hakeem Butler is absolutely ridiculous. He's just not as polished as maybe a N'Keal Harry is yet, but the upside and the talent is there for Hakeem Butler.
My 2019 NFL Draft Bay, Hakeem Butler.
Did you just say Bay?
I did. I mean, I've been saying it for months how much I love Hakeem Butler, and I honestly think he is just going to be a huge difference maker at the next level.
I still can't get over the fact that you said Bay. All right, we're going to move on before you have a chance to say it again. No, that's even worse. Anyway, that's a different comment. We'll take that off air. 27, the Oakland Raiders, now their next pick here in the first round. We have them taking Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama. A lot of people may not like this pick, but with Doug Martin and Marshawn Lynch being free agents, they need somebody in the backfield. And I think if they don't get one of these top offensive guys, one of these top names in the draft, the fan base may riot. So let's go ahead and give him the number 1 rated running back in the draft here with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk that Marshawn Lynch has said he would like to come back now that the team is going to be staying in Oakland for one more year before moving to Vegas. But I mean, if you're trying to redo that offense and you're trying to gain a new, what I want to say here, identity. Let's go with that word. If you're trying to gain a new identity with your offense, what better to do it within a running back that could be Marshawn Lynch-esque at some point? Not nearly the same kind of battering running back, but he'll be a power running back that can knock people flat.
And I think at this point we realize, Kyle, that it doesn't matter who we send to the Oakland Raiders; they're going to be upset about it anyway. Hashtag butthurt.
The Raiders fans don't love mock drafts.
No, they don't. They don't like anybody that you throw in there. All right, number 28, the Los Angeles Chargers. We have them taking an interior defensive lineman here, Charles Omenihu out of Texas, and he's somebody who could really add to that defensive front that is already borderline elite for the Chargers.
If Jeffrey Simmons hadn't been hurt, if he hadn't torn his ACL, he would be going earlier in this draft. Would have likely pushed a couple of maybe other interior defensive linemen down a little bit. But this is a guy that I brought up in our last mock draft. I said I liked him, that I had watched some more on him, and I thought he was a guy that could come out with a first-round grade here pretty soon, and he went to the combine and tore it up. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on here.
For sure. All right, 29, the Kansas City Chiefs. They definitely need help on defense. The last thing they need is help on offense, obviously. So here we have them taking DeAndre Baker, defensive back out of Georgia, trying to help that secondary a little bit because they gave up so many points and so many yards last year on the defensive side of the football. That's where they need to focus here at the beginning of this draft.
Yeah, they need a cornerback. They need a cornerback that can show up in big situations. DeAndre Baker has the potential to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, unless one of these bigger names we said earlier, fall to them, they're definitely going to be looking at a defensive back. Number 30, the Green Bay Packers, their second first-round pick. We have them taking Deontay Thompson, safety out of Alabama. Arguably, and most people's number 1 safety. I mean, obviously we have Nasir Adderley higher than him, but Deontay Thompson is somebody who could definitely be a playmaker in the secondary for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I think getting him down here is really good value for them. I think this justifies basically where I believe he is within this player pool, and they need a safety. So instead of spending a higher pick on a safety, they get their edge first and they get their safety second, and they're looking at a brand new defense heading into 2019.
Yep. The Los Angeles Rams at 31st overall. Now that Mark Barron is out of town, he was released. We have Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. He would definitely fill a need. I mean, linebacker was already the weakest part of that defense for the Rams. Here they get one of the top linebackers in the draft.
There's a lot of people that think Mack Wilson is the second linebacker over Devin Bush. I don't agree with that, but I do think he is a very good player, very solid player. He'd fit in well here.
Yep. The last pick of the first round, the New England Patriots. If you had a bay of Hakeem Butler, this may be mine for this draft. We have Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. He is going to be the future Gronk in this offense. Obviously, there's still questions surrounding Gronk and his future there. Noah Fant, in my opinion, had himself an amazing combine. And I know we can't just take into account just the drills they just did and say, oh, he's better than TJ Hawkinson. But there was just something about Noah Fant when I watched him firsthand. He just looked dynamic and explosive. Hawkinson seemed safe. Fant looks like he's the difference maker. And the difference maker in the past has been Gronk. That's why we have Fant going here, number 32.
Yeah, I have Hawkinson slightly ahead of Fant. Not very much, though. It's a 1A, 1B type situation for me. So this could end up going either way. But just imagine if Gronkowski does come back and they draft Fant. That's going to be some pretty good weapons there.
I mean, I will fully disclose that I pushed Kyle to put Fant here at 32. My love for Noah Fant had to show up somewhere in the first draft, and no better place than the New England Patriots. All right, well, hey, that was our first round. This is the top 32 picks, as Kyle said earlier. This is our first set of predictions here after the combine. I'm sure we'll do more of these mock draft videos as we get closer to the draft, depending on free agency and what happens and rumors. It's definitely something that's going to be evolving here over the next few weeks, few months. But it's exciting. It's fun to talk about. I enjoy talking about it. I know Kyle and I have all kinds of off-camera discussions, and we try to push our beliefs on each other, and sometimes I win, and most of the time I lose. But anyway, it's a lot of fun doing these, but we want to make this interactive. Put it down in the comment section. Who would you prefer your team take if maybe you don't like the selection that we have? Be respectful with it and give us a reason for it. Don't just say, that guy sucks. Tell us why he sucks, and then tell us who you want there and why. It really opens up a good conversation, a good dialogue, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Before we get out of here, make sure you go follow Kyle on Twitter, follow myself on Twitter. Our handles are right there on the screen. We really appreciate all the support here on the channel lately, and we look forward to talking to you guys here in the near future. Kyle, you have anything else you want to add here at the end?
Let's mock, lock, and pop it.
No, it's pop, lock, and mock it. Kyle, you ruined it. It's pop, lock, and mock it.
My bad.
You want to dance with it?
No.
Okay. Anyway, before I start standing up and dancing, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.